Today we are replacing the impeller in this Force 90 horsepower 1996. To start off, you got to take out these bolts. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you get those 5 bolts removed, they are 15 millimeter on mine. Make sure you get the washers out too. The washer and this one seemed to get stuck for me. Once that's done, you're gonna take the foot and basically just pull it straight down, making sure the engine's in neutral. And then once you pull the motor or pull the foot out, you'll end up putting it on something like this stand I've made here, or you can just put it between 2 chairs or on the ground. I just prefer to not put mine on the ground since I think it's not leaking and don't really want it to start. I'll get right back with you after I get that on. There's a little bit of prying and a dead blow hammer and some other prying tools used, but once it got off that first little separation, it came loose and I was able to plop it down here. If you look up in there, you'll see we had some unwanted guests at some point. So that definitely isn't good for it. Everything up here looks nice. As you'll see, my lower unit's a little damaged, but I'm unconcerned about that. Next step is to get it off this water pump housing. So you'll need to take out these 4 bolts and this piece should slide right off. Now that we got those 4 bolts out, this piece is nice and loose and it should be able to wiggle it up. And there's our culprit of why it wasn't pumping very good water. This impeller has seen some shit. So you can also take your impeller, take it off. There's a key, as you can see right there. That is very important. Do not lose that. That is required for the new impeller. But this impeller will slide off, and you can also slide off this faceplate, and then we'll clean this. All right, once you get all that cleaned up and you got your new impeller ready, here's mine. Got it from Sierra Marine. Part number is 183056. And what we're going to do is we're going to lubricate the shaft with either marine grease, or I use this multi-purpose stuff. You're going to lubricate the shaft. You want to lubricate down here, and you're also going to lubricate the inside of this where the fins will rub, because you don't want to grab it on there and then have it end up like your old one. But whenever you get this impeller on, you're gonna slide it most of the way down, and then you're gonna take the key, face it outward on this flat part here, and that's what actually causes the impeller to be able to spin freely. Okay, once you get to this stage where you're about to put the water pump housing back onto the impeller, to make sure you don't get the impeller started the wrong way, what you're gonna do is push down on this while turning the crankshaft clockwise. And while doing that will ensure that the impeller will seat correctly into the water pump housing. Then once you're done with that, you can go ahead and put those 4 screws back in. They're 10 millimeters. Then once you get this back on there nice and snug, don't over tighten these. Snapping one of those off is a nightmare. You're just gonna pick the foot back up and put it back in the hole where it came. To get it back in there, I ended up you gotta like pull it up into place, and then I had to reach up with my other hand and wiggle the flywheel a bit just to get the splines to lock in, so I get the extra little bit. And then I got a bolt on, or nut on, and a nut on the other side. Now I'm gonna put the rest in and tighten it up, and then we'll see if she pees.